Cancer. This is how the witch in your family dresses, the one who secretly envies the very sanctuary you create. Cancer, if you knew what I just saw in your energy today, maybe you would never doubt your intuition again. I saw something that has been silently happening for a long time. Someone in your family, someone who seems harmless, is actually hiding a dense energy of envy and control. She doesn't scream, she doesn't confront, but every whisper behind your back, every small gesture is a way to pull you away from your own center. And then I saw light. A warm glow is opening up around you. But that light isn't coming from the outside. It's coming from within your own heart. After all the pain you've learned to heal from in silence, today I want to tell you about that woman, the one who carries darkness but hides under the mask of family. About the special spiritual gift you carry, the one that makes them unable to control you. About your protective intuition, which is awakening powerfully. And about a love that's coming, not to fill a void, but to build a home with you. This isn't just an astrology video. This is a letter meant for your soul. If you dare to believe that you are worthy of the truth, not the truth from others, but from within you, the one you've ignored so many times just to keep the peace, to keep up appearances, or to maintain a relationship that is no longer healthy. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to say might make you reflect on your entire life and realize you were never weak. If you're ready, take a deep breath and allow yourself to listen, not with your mind, but with your heart. And then be honest with me, or rather, be honest with yourself. Isn't it true that what hurt you the most was never the sharp words, but those moments when you saw the truth clearly, yet still smiled, still told yourself, it's nothing? You've grown too used to enduring in silence, too used to forgiving even before the other person realized they hurt you. But that doesn't mean you're weak. It only means one thing. You had to grow up in an environment where love didn't always come from sincerity. Sometimes it was disguised as control, jealousy, and the fear of being left behind. You don't have to keep living like that anymore. Because the scary part isn't that someone is trying to control you, but that you've learned to live with it as if it were a normal part of life. You began to dim your light just so others wouldn't feel threatened. But you weren't born to make people comfortable in their own darkness. You were born to be a lighthouse. And a true lighthouse never needs to apologize for shining brightly. There's something you've never told anyone, but deep in your soul, you know it. Something isn't right behind your back. It's not just a hunch, but a repeated pattern of signs. A feeling of unease in your own home. A nameless fatigue, even when everything around seems peaceful. And moments when you feel like you're carrying the emotions of others on your shoulders. No, it's not random, because everything is energy, and part of this isn't coming from you. There is someone, maybe someone very close, who is trying to manipulate your emotions. They don't confront, but they always show up with veiled advice. They don't criticize, but they constantly plant doubt about you in others under the guise of concern. They don't need to speak because they know how to spread darkness just with their presence. And then, like so many times before, you ask yourself, did I do something wrong? No, Cancer. You did nothing wrong. You are simply radiating warmth, and they haven't learned how to respect that fire. And when the truth can no longer be hidden, the universe steps in. Karma doesn't arrive with thunder. It arrives in silence and slowly. It begins to unravel what they thought they could hide forever. You don't need revenge. Light doesn't need to react to darkness. But you do need to understand one thing. When a soul chooses to live kindly, the universe will never let them fall in injustice. Every act, even the quietest, echoes back. No one can sleep peacefully when their own conscience begins to speak. What they've done will come back to find them, not as punishment, but as a burden no one else can carry for them. Sometimes you'll see them gradually lose the trust of others. They will no longer be able to control their own narrative. The things they built with deceit will collapse from a lack of foundation. And when the mask falls, no one needs to point fingers because they'll have nothing left to hold on to. When you live with a pure heart, with words and actions rooted in sincere care, you are cultivating a silent strength, a strength that darkness cannot touch. You don't need to prove anything. You only need to stand firm, because real light doesn't need noise. It only needs to be true. Others might twist the truth about you. They might make some people doubt you, but no one can make you doubt yourself unless you let them. Have you ever felt emotionally manipulated by someone you once trusted? Have you ever quietly withdrawn from a relationship because your soul sensed danger, even without solid proof? Tell me your story. Let your experience become a light for someone still living in the same shadow. And if, at any moment, you've ever asked yourself, "How am I still standing after all these wounds?" Listen closely one more time. Because long ago, you were given a gift not everyone has. Something others may imitate but can never truly touch. It is protective intuition, a kind of power that doesn't need to be displayed but is always present. You didn't learn it from anyone. It's been with you since birth. You sense the truth even when it's unspoken. You know who needs you to listen and who is carrying an unnamed pain. Not because you want to save people, but because you were sent to this world to preserve gentleness in a world full of wounds. And because of that, they can't control you. They can't manipulate you. They can't break you. And you know what? That is only the beginning of a much greater awakening journey that awaits you ahead. Because from the moment you began to sense that something wasn't right, it was also the moment when the sacred souls around you began to speak, not through words, but through vibrations you couldn't explain. That familiar feeling of warmth when you enter a room, that sense of being protected when you're at your most vulnerable. Since you were a child, you have been protected. Some things only happen once, not because you were lucky, but because an invisible force stepped in to stop the storm for you. Maybe you don't fully believe in angels, ancestors, or guardian spirits, but your soul has never doubted. Your soul has always sensed that presence. Sometimes through dreams, sometimes through the feeling of being held when no one was there. Sometimes through a sudden warmth in your chest, just when you thought you were about to collapse. These are not coincidences. That is the halo you carry with you, invisible to others but always present. And you know what? It's that very halo that makes the ones who bring poison hesitate. Maybe they don't understand why they feel uneasy when you walk in. Maybe they can't explain why every time they try to bring you down, something lifts you up. They don't know you have a guide. They don't know that while they plan harm for you, behind you, there is a whole team of light working tirelessly to keep you on your path. You may not see them, but they are always there, gentle like the smoke of incense, lit for someone who has passed, silent like a prayer you whisper when you have nothing left to hold on to. They don't appear to solve all your problems. They just help you remember that you are worthy of good things. And that is the true power. Because as long as you remember you are loved, not because you are talented, not because you are always right, but simply because you are you, you will never lose yourself. Maybe someone once made you believe you were asking for too much just by wanting respect. Maybe you were told you were too sensitive, too emotional, too fragile. But now you know, don't you, Cancer? That's not a weakness. That's a sacred language of the soul. Not everyone is pure enough to understand. And if you've ever felt like you're too different to belong, remember this. You weren't born to blend into the crowd. You were born to raise the frequency of this world, even just a little. through your warm and genuine presence. You're going through one of the most challenging phases, but also the most powerful moment, because this is no longer the time to close your eyes and let things slide. This is the time to open your eyes to the truth, even if it makes you tremble. This is the time to sit up, not to retaliate, but to face everything you once endured and choose to forgive, but never to allow it to repeat. And there is something important you need to hear right now. Someone from your past is coming back. Someone who once broke you. Maybe it was a relationship that never had a name. Maybe it was someone you thought you couldn't live without. They will return in a dream, in a memory, or in a message that seems harmless. They will say they've changed, that they miss you, that they realize their mistakes. But is that the truth, or is it the final test to see if you've truly chosen yourself yet? Just like how the universe often sends messages not too obvious, but just enough for you to notice, someone from the past will come back. Not with a loud apology, but with a very subtle, delicate presence, as if nothing painful had ever happened. An unexpected message, a dream that wakes you in the middle of the night, a song they once sent suddenly reappearing in your playlist. They'll say they've changed, that they miss you, that they regret you. They'll use beautiful memories to unlock your heart, the very heart they once walked away from. And they won't ask for forgiveness with words, but with a look that melts your resolve. But darling, this isn't a test to see whether you still love them. This is a test to see whether you still choose yourself. Because a part of you, the part that always put others first, the part that believed love meant enduring, may be stirred. But you are no longer who you used to be. You don't live from your wounds anymore. You live from truth. And the truth is, if someone truly values you, they won't wait until you're broken. They won't need to shatter you to realize your worth. Real love doesn't need to be painful to be deep. Real love doesn't require you to trade your dignity just to survive. Maybe they truly have changed, but not everyone who changes deserves another chance. Because forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, and trust that's something the other person has to earn. And if this time you say no, not out of hatred, but because you've learned not to return to what once made you doubt yourself, then that is the moment you truly step out of the old cycle. Because forgiveness is healing, but self-respect is liberation. You may still love. There may be nights you miss them so much it hurts, but what makes you strong isn't that you forgot them. It's that you still choose not to return to the place that lost you. And then, when you finally close that door with both love and finality, you'll hear something inside you exhale softly, as if your soul has finally been released from a prison you had grown too used to realize it wasn't freedom. That is the moment the universe starts preparing another door for you, where someone is coming, not to complete you, but to walk beside you, not to control you, but to witness you shine. Another kind of love is coming, but you can only receive it when your hands are no longer clinging to the old door. And as you begin to step out of the loop of old emotions, you'll notice strange things begin to happen. Doors that once stayed tightly shut now creak open. Opportunities you thought had slipped away reappear. Not loudly, not forcefully, but simply asking you gently, this time, are you ready to receive? Maybe you've always felt a step behind everyone else. That what you carried inside, no matter how deep, how sincere, never seemed to be acknowledged at the right time. But the truth is, the universe never forgets anyone who lives with kindness. There are prayers you thought were lost, but they were actually the ones silently guiding you to today's turning point. You don't need to rush. You don't need to shout to the world who you are, because true talent, when born from a humble heart, will speak for itself. And you have that within you, a very special gift, an ability that when you touch it, you don't feel tired. On the contrary, you feel at peace. Something you once thought everyone can do, but in truth, only when you do it does it carry emotion, does it carry healing energy. You once hid it, once saw it as something small, once pushed it aside because life had too many things to worry about. But now, you can no longer pretend, because it's not just a passion, it's a calling. You weren't born to repeat an exhausting routine, to trade health for validation. You were born to use that gift, whether it's writing, cooking, listening, healing, creating beauty, or simply being present to help someone feel they are not alone. And the strange thing is, when you start giving the exact thing you were created to give, the universe will begin to return things you once thought were impossible. You will see the right people appear, invitations that don't come from connections, but from not so random coincidences. And money, something you once worried about to the point of exhaustion, will no longer be a battle. It will become a flow, not too much, not too little, but just enough for you to live your truth without sacrificing yourself anymore. From here on, remember one important thing. Your energy is the most precious asset you have. Stop investing it in places that leave you drained. Don't keep pouring your love, time, and care into places that don't cherish it. Don't use your light to warm places that have chosen to live forever in the dark. From now on, you only water what you want to see grow. Not because you're selfish, but because you've learned that not everyone is worthy of the pure energy you carry. Start with small things. A day without social media. One time saying no to something that weighs on your heart. Because each small act like that is your way of telling the universe, I'm ready to live as my true self. And when you begin walking from a place of self-respect, not lack, every step you take, every word you speak, everything you create will carry a vibration that others can't help but hear. Because at that moment, you no longer need to try to be seen. You've become the very light people are drawn to. And you know what? The best part hasn't even come yet. The signals from the invisible world are becoming clearer, and your intuition is beginning to awaken on a deeper level than ever before. Sometimes truth doesn't come in words, it comes in dreams. You once dreamed of being lost in an old house or standing before a door that wouldn't open, waking up feeling half sad, half uncertain, unable to name it but clearly sensing something was calling you from another layer of consciousness. Your soul never stopped speaking. Life was just too noisy, and you missed the silent messages. Every time you see water in a dream, that's unhealed emotion seeking a way out. If you see a door, a key, or endless hallways, your soul is signaling it's time to move into a new chapter. Dreams are not random. They are the maps your intuition draws. When the mind is asleep, no one understands that better than you. The one who has always lived with a sensitive soul and a deep connection to the energies others call sacred. You don't need to learn how to communicate with the universe from anyone, because you are part of that universe. You just need to return to stillness, like water with no ripples, to clearly see what's always been there. Repeating numbers, a strange glance in a crowd, a song playing at the moment you were about to give up, that's not coincidence. That's a message. A soul that has awakened like yours can no longer pretend not to hear. Because once you've opened your eyes, you cannot go back to sleep. It also means you'll start sensing things others don't notice. Maybe you'll find it hard to explain why you feel someone isn't safe, even if they've done nothing wrong. Maybe you'll pull away from a conversation because something leaves you empty each time you're near them. Don't doubt that feeling, because your intuition doesn't need proof. It only needs you to trust. You've lived long enough to understand that those instincts, once called weakness, are actually the only compass that kept you standing in life's storms. You've learned how to feel the truth through a touch, a downcast gaze, or a silence that doesn't come from peace. And that ability to read what's never said is the greatest gift you own. The moment you begin to trust it, you'll no longer chase anyone. You won't need to ask others what to do, where to go, or who to choose. You will know, not through logic, but through a deep calm that spreads from within. That calm is the answer, because anything that makes you feel at peace will never lead you astray. And when you start living from that place, from awakened intuition, you'll see old relationships quietly close and new paths naturally open. No need to rush choices, because everything is aligning at the pace your soul chose before you were born. The universe is whispering. You just need to listen. You don't need anyone to save you. You were never so weak that you needed someone else to define your worth. But it's also true you've always dreamed of a love that could walk beside you, not to fix you, but to walk with you through the empty days, the fragile moments. A love not to fill the gaps, but to live more fully together. And the miracle is, when you no longer cling to the past out of fear of being alone, the door opens for the one who truly deserves to walk in. Someone who doesn't arrive with noise, doesn't promise like the movies, but has a gaze quiet enough for you to realize, I no longer have to pretend to be strong to be loved. They don't love you for what you can offer, but for who you are in your softest version. They're not drawn to the shine you unknowingly give off when forcing yourself to thrive, but to the way you live gently, purely, and still hold faith in a world full of doubt. They won't make your heart race with excitement, but they will make it slow down with peace. Not because they're perfect, but because beside them, you no longer have to hide any part of yourself. No pretending, no dodging, no shrinking to fit someone else's expectations. And you will realize, true love doesn't begin with, "You're my everything," or "I'll change for you," but with a look that says, "You don't need to be anything other than yourself." This time, you don't love in fear of losing. You love with a heart that has gone through cracks but still opens to the light. Because you've learned, love isn't about accepting what hurts you just because you're afraid no one else will love you like that. True love is when you're chosen every day, not out of obligation, not because of memories, but because in this present moment, you are the one they want to share each second with. They may not arrive in the form you once dreamed of, but they will arrive with the right presence, the right respect, and with a mature love that doesn't play silent games or hold unreasonable grudges. Because they too have walked through their own pain, so they understand the value of honesty, patience, and healing. And when you meet them, you won't need to ask, are they sincere? You'll know. Not through words, but through a very clear feeling. I don't need to be on guard anymore. No more power games, no more silence to control, no more decoding each other daily just to survive the relationship. This time, love comes not to teach you a lesson, but to build a home with you. But you know what's even more beautiful? It's this. Even if they haven't arrived yet, you can still smile. Because you no longer let the emptiness in your heart be filled by the wrong person. You've walked through the storm on your own, and from where you stand now, you can see that a love worth having will never ask you to trade your inner light just to survive. Someone who truly loves you won't love you because you're always strong. They'll love you even in the moments you're soft, because they know when a Cancer soul loves with everything they have, that love is unlike anything else in this world. You once ran far, for a long time, trying to find a place for yourself in this world. There were times you thought, if you're good enough, kind enough, try hard enough, then finally people will understand you, love you, acknowledge you. But the more you ran, the more breathless you became. Not because you were weak, but because you were running in the wrong direction. You were chasing acceptance when what you truly needed was to return to yourself. Now you're not the same anymore. Not because you've hardened, but because you've learned not to compromise. You no longer use your energy to maintain relationships that make you feel small. You no longer try to please everyone, because in the end, you understand when you forget who you are to be loved, that love is never real. It's time you stopped. Stop to hear a different calling, the one you've heard many times but always pushed aside. What is your purpose? No, not to become someone great, but to live in truth with the energy you bring into this world. Maybe it's a creativity that inspires others. Maybe it's a way of listening that makes someone feel understood for the first time. Maybe it's a healing presence in your quiet, whole being. Don't think that only famous people, great speakers, or high earners have a mission. Purpose is not something you show off. Purpose is something you can't not do, because if you don't, a part of you dies a little each day. You've had it for a long time. That thing that quietly brings you joy. The thing you can do for hours without getting tired. The thing people always thank you for because you have that gift, but you just see it as something small. That is the key, because real talent doesn't need to be loud to be recognized. It needs your courage to believe what comes from the heart will always find its way to another heart. Maybe you've doubted, am I good enough? Does anyone care about what I'm doing? But the truth is, there are so many people out there waiting for exactly the energy that only you can give. And if you dare to take the first step, you'll see the universe begin to arrange the rest. Don't wait to be perfect. Don't wait to have enough time, money, or support. Begin with yourself, in honesty, kindness, and your most genuine vibration. Because what touches another's heart is not skill, not pretty words, but a lived truth spoken by someone who's walked through darkness and still chose to love life. And you are that kind of person. A Cancer soul who's been forgotten, betrayed, misunderstood, but never turned bitter. You chose to remain tender. That is not weakness. That is the purest strength. And for that reason, you no longer need to fight for anything. Your worth needs no validation, because the universe already stamped it the moment you chose to walk out of the darkness. There are things you can't explain, like why a song suddenly makes you cry, why a stranger says exactly what you're thinking, or why you always feel something greater is quietly guiding you through life's stormy chapters. That's not coincidence. That's a signal from souls that came before, from guardian angels, from ancestors, from the very light you carried when you came into this world. You don't have to walk through it all alone. Even when you feel lonely, even when life makes you question people's goodness, there are still invisible hands lifting you, step by step, breath by breath. Not because you're weak, but because you are chosen to keep gentleness in a world too rough, chosen to heal with light, not retaliate with darkness, chosen to be the living proof of something simple but profound. When you live in truth with your soul, the universe will align itself, and so you deserve to begin again. Not from wounds, but from faith. You deserve to be loved, not because you're perfect, but because you're real. You deserve to be received, not because you've tried too hard, but because you've always lived with a heart that never gave up. Place your hand on your chest, take a deep breath, and speak to yourself, not just in words, but in soul. I am no longer afraid of the dark, because I have become the light. I no longer need to be chosen by others, because I have chosen myself. I no longer live to fit in, because I was born to be a safe harbor. I open my heart to receive a love that is whole, from myself, from the universe, and from those who are worthy of my light. You can write down these affirmations. You can repeat them every morning when the sun rises or every night before going to bed. Because every word spoken from the heart is a seed, and you are planting a new garden within your own soul. And if there's one final thing you need to remember from this entire journey, it's this. You don't need to become anything else. You just need the courage to return to who you truly are. Because Cancer is not an ordinary soul. You are the embodiment of emotion, intuition, healing, and loyalty. You are a gentle miracle silently shining in a world that deeply needs quiet kindness. Have you ever felt guided by the universe? A dream, a sign, a person who showed up at the perfect moment? Have you ever repeated an affirmation daily and felt your heart soften? Please share with me in the comments, because what you share might just be the flame that warms someone's soul today. And if you're still here, listening until these very last moments, then I believe this. Your heart is still open. Open to healing, open to faith, open to a new journey, not born from wounds, but from awakening. You may not realize it, but by choosing to stay until the end, you've given yourself a gift, the time to love yourself again and never abandon your soul one more time. Today, if there's one thing you need to do after this video, it's not to change yourself, not to immediately take action, or to try harder. It's simply to sit still, place your hand on your heart, and say, thank you. Thank you to yourself for not giving up. Thank you to yourself for keeping your gentleness, no matter how the world tried to tear it away. Thank you to yourself for choosing the light even when darkness was easier. And if you've ever felt too different, too sensitive, too easily hurt, then please remember the world needs more people like you, because gentleness is not something to hide, it is something to be shared. If anything in this video touched you, please share it with me in the comments. What have you been through? How are you feeling right now? What are you ready to welcome into your life? Because when you write it out, you're not just healing yourself, you're also lighting the way for someone else still wandering through the darkness you once walked through. Don't forget, we're walking this journey together. No one is left behind. No experience of yours is meaningless. Each one is shaping a radiant soul named you. And if you want to continue this journey with me, please hit subscribe, turn on notifications, because every video here is a spiritual letter, just for you. A sacred space where you are seen, understood, and cherished. Because you deserve that. Not because you're perfect, but because you are a soul who dares to live truthfully, and that is the most sacred thing of all. To you, the one watching these final moments, a wholehearted blessing with all my love. May you be at peace with every breath, steady with every choice, and always believe that the light you carry in your heart will always find its way home.